college graduate today is more psychically and nervously tired than the average man of 3 times his years in the last generation. He is already an old, worn-out person when he graduates, because too much has been demanded of him, particularly at a time of life in which his resources are not at their best for this type of pressure. The person living along through life used to believe that he could live securely and at least the probability of his own life expectancy. World conditions would not change enough in 50 or 75 years to cripple the right of the average person to survive through his span of life expectancy without impossible situations arising. Today, the whole world changes in 5 years. There are no longer securities of these probabilities. The man who masters his trade today is not certain that he will work for the rest of his natural life. He does not know when he will be replaced. He does not know when the field of endeavor with which he is concerned will become obsolete. These pressures add a constant subconscious fear which eats at the securities of this person. Yet we all live in one kind of a world. Whether we know it or not, we live in another present world. After all, most human beings are not ferocious or terrible creatures. The tendency of nearly all normal persons of all races and nations is to be kindly, well-disposed, sincerely interested in preventing suffering and bestowing as much happiness and contentment as possible. We are not living in an awful world. We are not really living in a heartless world, because most of the people who are in trouble or are causing trouble are good-natured, kindly intentioned persons. They are all dominated by some kind of a strange, abstract pattern, and this pattern grinds all of them into the same ultimate fatigue situations. It is not that it is a nasty, terrible life that we live. It is that we have gradually set up patterns and standards and attitudes which are commonly afflicting us all and making life a desperate and difficult cycle for hundreds of millions of human beings. And out of the pressures and difficulties and stresses of these patterns come disorientations of mind and emotion. And what we call really nasty people are mostly merely very tired, disorganized, disoriented people, nervously exhausted, and therefore incapable of normal, happy, well-adjusted function. The Zen situation takes this particular problem under consideration very definitely. And one way perhaps we can approach it is by reference to what is called the no mask. In Western psychology today, some schools have the term the persona, or the mask of the person which he wears before society. This mask represents the individual's defense. It is the person he wants others to see. It is the person which is the product of ambition and bluff and pressure and tension. It is the successful person who wishes his photograph to be on the cover of the local handbook of the social clubs, the service clubs, organizations. It is the face of the young politician rising in the world, and of the old substantial broker at the head of his corporation. It is the face of a strange, tired responsibility, which is regarded now as respectability. This mask, the no mask, is tied in very greatly with the psychology of Asia. And if you notice the various images and symbols of the deities of Hinduism and Buddhism, you will realize how often this mask appears. The no mask of Asia is the face that is inscrutably calm, the strange, quiet face, about which lingers just the suggestion of a smile. A strange, almost expressionless face. Western people, observing this expression on the face of their Eastern brethren, are inclined to assume that it is a mask, that this Oriental person is wearing this expression as having cultivated it for years in front of a mirror, that this expression is something that he puts on for a purpose, and that behind this expression is all the confusion, all the intensity, all the uncertainty of Western man. But the Eastern man has found a cute and interesting way to conceal this, and in this way, to a sense, discomfort his Western friend. Actually, this attitude is not correct. The no mask of Asia represents a cultivated internal integration. This expression represents 2,000 years or more of civilizations and cultures and ways of life that have been founded upon self-discipline, that never for a moment does the conduct of the individual escape from the pattern of that individual's conscious concept of value. In other words, this no mask has been developed through thousands of years of self-control. It is not an expression put on. It is an attitude of consciousness moving out. And the face becomes the symbol of this attitude of consciousness. Some years ago, there was an illustration, I think it was in Life magazine. A photographer had taken a picture of a crowded intersection in New York City. And in this picture, there were at least 100 clearly visible faces, sufficiently well photographed, although the persons did not know they were being photographed, so that you could study the characteristics of expression. At the time the picture was published, the caption was placed underneath it, pointing out the interesting fact that in this nearly 100 faces on the street, there was not one with a smile. 100 faces, 100 glooms of one kind or another. Every one of these faces was loaded with tension. They were all grim, locked faces, with deep furrows in the corners of the mouth, furrows that slanted downward, to give a strangely grave, sad, melancholy kind of expression. Deep-set eyes, heavily shadowed by the light even upon the aquiline features of Western man. Faces loaded with pressure, loaded with grim resolve. Faces bitter, saddened, exasperated, relentless, but faces strangely and wonderfully filled with not an evil look, but a strangely sick look. I was talking with a Japanese friend in a little hotel in a small village about 100 miles north of Tokyo. And he was telling me about the visitors and tourists that come to the hotel. Not too many. Maybe one group every 3 or 4 weeks. The rest of the time he lives entirely with the native people. He says he begins to realize why it is